guys, it's me, Crystal, and it is reading wrap-up time over here at the cafe. So let's just get right into it, shall we? So I read these 3 books plus an ebook. So before I talk about those, I'm going to go through everything I did not get to. I'm not rolling anything over because most of this TBR was rolled over from July. And if I have to look at these books in another month, they're going to start stressing me out. So we're just going to put them back on the shelf. So, but first, I'm rolling over Cursed for the 3rd time. I think I started reading this in July. I'm about halfway done. Or maybe I'm literally halfway done because this looks like the halfway point, doesn't it? Anyway, this is an anthology of fairy tale retellings. I'm kind of not in the mood to read an anthology right now. So it's not moving very quickly. I think I only read 2 stories out of here this month, although one of them was just absolutely amazing. But anyway, I'm rolling this over. This is the only book that's getting rolled over, and that's because I'm halfway through, and so I would like to get this done at some point. Okay, so other books that were on my TBR was Portraits by Catherine Lasky. This is a middle grade historical fiction. This is just going back on the shelf. I didn't even try to read it. Also had Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, and this was a book that was on my intimidating reads list because I was afraid that I wouldn't like it because there's a lot of point of views, but I'm only 1.5 chapters in, but I'm really liking the story. I really like the story. I really like the writing style. I really like the characters. So this is no longer an intimidating read. But since this has been on my TBR for so long, I'm just going to put it back on the shelf for now because I'm kind of tired of it not being on the shelf, and then we'll pick it up again later. But I can be really excited when this book comes up again because now I'm confident that I will like it. This is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, in case you didn't know. Next on the TBR, I had We Are Satellites by Sarah Pinsker. Didn't get to this. And this is adult sci-fi. And then next I have You Love Me by Caroline Kepnes. This is book 3 in the You series. This is suspense. I really want to read this still, but I'm obviously not in the mood right now because I didn't even try to get to this book. And I had this graphic novel that I still really want to read. It's kind of a weird month if I don't make time to read the graphic novel, but didn't even pick it up. I think this is contemporary comedy, and it's Wicked Things by John Allison. And then last, I have this illustrated edition of Stardust by Neil Gaiman, and this is adult fantasy. Beautifully illustrated, and I'm still really looking forward to this, but I don't want to leave it on the TBR too long because it'll start putting pressure on the book to read it, and I would like to not have pressure on my favorite thing to do in the world. So all those books are going back on the shelf. So now onto the books that were on my TBR that I did read. So first, I have the ebook. This is the first book I finished this month, and this is You Are Mine by Janelle Fowler, and this is a YA fantasy. I gave this 3 stars. I'm just going to read you my notes because I finished it near the beginning of the month, and August was both a really long month and a really short month at the same time, so I almost don't even remember what I thought about this book. I know I had a lot of thoughts when I was done. I had notes all over this page. Anyway, what I said in my notes, I said that it was interesting and I wanted to know what would happen, but the main character was kind of annoying and the writing was repetitive and just could have been better, and it could have used better editing. The romance was very meh. But the ending did not have a cliffhanger. There are more books in the series, but I think they're from other characters' points of view, or maybe there were multiple points of views in the other books. I don't know. I'm not interested in reading any more of them. The world was interesting enough. The book was interesting enough to continue. I didn't know what to expect going into this book because this was a book that I downloaded for free I don't know how long ago, and I didn't even know it was YA until I started reading. So the book is about this girl lives in this country, and the whole world isn't like this. It's just the country that she is from. She lives in this country where basically women are property. to be bought and sold and traded and whatever. And so the men, not all the men are wizards, but some of the men have power in their blood. And if you have power in your blood and you're a man, then you get to use it. And if you have power in your blood as a woman, then that makes you, you know, like a more expensive piece of property. And so people will want you as their wife because they can use your blood to make themselves stronger. So the story starts, and our main character has just turned 17, and she is getting her blood tested. And of course, she comes from, you know, good stock or whatever. She has a lot of power in her blood. And so she gets sold to this guy, and this guy is a creep. But before they can get married, they have to have like this period of time where they're like engaged. And so it's kind of weird. And so it's like, it's his property, but they're not allowed to have sex until they get married. First, they have like this tournament, and then after the tournament, they're going to have this engagement ceremony. And then after the engagement ceremony, there's like this 3 or 4 month period of time before they get married. I don't know why it takes so long. I guess so the story could happen. I don't know. So they go to this tournament, and the guy that bought her from her father dies. And so she becomes the property of the guy who killed him, which is this guy from this country that they said is full of savage giants. Which I thought it was kind of interesting that they had giants in the story, because I've never read a story with giants in it before, somehow. I just don't think I have. And of course, these giants are not savage. And what I found really annoying, though, was like the guy, I guess, talked with his hands a lot. And so sometimes when he's gesticulating, you know, she thinks he's about to hit her, and she flinches a lot because, you know, her dad was very abusive, you know, hits her a lot, you know, puts hexes on her a lot, silent curses, breaking bones and stuff. It's really dark, and maybe I think I would have felt it more if the writing had been better. And I almost saying that this because I'm not in the mood for like a Handmaid's Tale kind of story, but I decided to give it a few more pages, and I was able to continue going. I think probably because it's YA, and it just doesn't go as dark as like you would think from like the book description or from reading the first like chapter or whatever. Okay, so the entire book is just her slowly falling for this giant and waiting for their wedding day, and it's kind of boring, honestly. And then meanwhile, there's somebody trying to kill the giant. The giant isn't doing things exactly the way they like things to be done. And so they want to get rid of him because, you know, he's a threat. He might bring change to the country, and no one wants that but the disenfranchised people, obviously. Anyway, the story, like I said, it was interesting enough to finish. It was fine. And there's no cliffhanger, so we're happy about that. And the story, you know, had a happy ending. I liked the ending. It didn't have an impact because I didn't really get invested in the story. And what I mean when I say it's repetitive is I mean like for like the first like half of the book or a little bit more, like I said, every time the guy was gesturing, you know, she was flinching, and then she kept like repeating herself. She's like, I don't know if I can trust him. I'm just waiting for like the bigger punishment to fall. And she just keeps thinking that, even though this guy is doing nothing threatening towards her, like even a little bit. And then it's like we get to the halfway mark of the story, and then all of a sudden she's off of it completely after getting on my nerves to the point where I did want somebody to smack her. So it was fun. Next, I read this poetry book by Zach Gray. I gave this 5 stars. This was somber and beautiful poetry, just like I like. And as I say every single time I talk about this, we have this nice color gradient with the cream pages, the gray pages, and the black pages. And I just thought that was really interesting. So definitely gonna try to pick up more poetry by Zach Gray because that was beautiful and I really liked it. Next, and I went ahead and picked this as my favorite read of the month. You probably already know what it is if you saw the thumbnail. It's All's Well by Mona Awad. Technically, this is like a 4.5 star book, but I rounded up to 5 stars because it doesn't deserve 4 stars. And I thought this was really good. It's, if you've read Mara Watt's writing before, she has a very interesting writing style. Her stories are very weird, and especially if you've read Bunny. I still like Bunny better than this. And I might like 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl a little bit better than this as well. And 13 Ways is her debut book. But this is really fun. Basically, we are following Miranda, and Miranda is a theater professor, and she used to be an actor on stage, and she had a bad fall and she hurt her hip, and so she's been suffering from chronic pain ever since. And she was married to this guy, and her marriage has unraveled, and she's just been like suffering for a while. So every year the theater department puts on a Shakespeare play, and this year she wants to do All's Well because that was her favorite play that she was in back when she was an actor. And the students all want to do Macbeth, or as they call it, the Scottish play. And they're like really fighting her on it, like so hard. Like I felt so bad. I felt so bad for Miranda because like one of the students, she was like going way behind her back and like just being awful. And I felt so bad for Miranda. And right away, she's a little bit of an unreliable narrator to where you're like, you know, she's obviously in horrible pain, but she's like popping pills and not as directed. And so she's just like kind of hallucinating a little bit. And so one day she's at this bar late. It's a bar called the Candyman. And she's in there, and these three businessmen are there. And right away, I was like, these are giving me vibes, and I love it. And so she talks to them, and then she keeps talking to them, and they give her way to get everything that she wants. And the story gets really weird. There are some scenes where I was like, I don't know what's going on at all here. I don't know if this is in her head. I don't know what's going on. But it was really interesting. And it did have a very satisfying ending. I really liked the ending. I thought just like overall the story was just like very disturbing and tense and like beautiful and creepy and like hopeful. And it was really fun. But I remember like during some of those scenes where I didn't really know what was going on, I was kind of feeling a little crazy, kind of like I did when I was reading Bunny, but like crazy in a good way. You know, it's like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm totally here for the ride. I don't want to get off. So, yeah, it was really fun. And I'm happy that it actually was good and that I actually loved it. Because sometimes when, you know, you have a book that you're really looking forward to and it finally comes out and then you read it, like sometimes it doesn't live up to the expectations that you put on it. But, yeah, this was really fun. Definitely my favorite read of the month. Mona Watt's definitely just one of my favorite writers. Might be my most favorite writer ever. But yeah, I thought this did a really, really good job of like seamlessly embodying both All's Well That Ends Well and the Macbeth at the same time. I was not expecting like the Macbeth vibes, but it's like as soon as they showed up, I was like, this is giving me Macbeth vibes and I love it. So yeah, I would call this like literary horror. I don't know. But I really like her writing. I think it's fantastic. All right. And the last book in this reading wrap up, I technically finished this very beginning of September. So, but I finished it before I filmed the video. So, and I really did not want to roll this over into another month because I've been reading that. I feel like I've been reading this book for forever. So I gave this 5 stars as well. This is The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. If you don't know, The Last Unicorn is one of my favorite movies of all time. I've seen it about 60 times. And it's just a beautiful lovely story about this unicorn, and she overhears these guys talking about how she might be the last unicorn in the entire world, and so she goes off on a journey to see if that's true. And at some point in the story, she gets turned into a human and she starts experiencing human things for the first time, and no unicorn has ever experienced human things. And yeah, it's really beautiful and lovely. And I'm glad I finally read this book after watching the movie so many times, and I read the graphic novel last year, and I could tell from the graphic novel that there were definitely things not just left out of the graphic novel, but like, you know, a lot of scenes that were completely left out of the movie for obvious reasons. You can't have everything. So it was nice to get the entire story, although I don't feel like anything was missing. I haven't seen the movie in a while, so I guess if I watched it immediately after reading this book, then I would notice it more, like the scenes that they took out. But this book, it's definitely the same exact vibes as the movie, probably because I think Peter S. Beagle wrote the screenplay for The Last Unicorn, so he was able to get all that magic captured. But the only reason why this is not my favorite read of the month is because, one, All's Well was just like, it was just like a ride for my brain. It was crazy. I laughed and almost cried when I was reading All's Well, you know. And also, I just kind of feel like this book, like the writing is just like it's a little too wordy. Like, I feel like he uses like 5 paragraphs when one sentence will do. And so there are just a lot of scenes where like we're in the middle of some stuff happening, and it takes like 3 or 4 pages or more for like them to go from point A to point B, because he's like really like taking the time to just like soak up everything and all the sights and all the senses and everybody's thoughts. And this is a very omniscient, you know, kind of point of view, which I got used to pretty quickly, but it just kind of slowed the story down. So that's the only reason why this is not my favorite read of the month. But I mean, it's an easy 5 stars. I really enjoyed reading this, even though it took me a long time. I was kind of not in a reading mood in August. Also, I decided to work on my planner and my reading journal for next year, and that took up most of the month. So what I did with the rest of the month was just kind of very slowly poked my way through some books. Also, I was reading several books at one time, and most of the time that works out perfectly fine for me. But, you know, once or twice a year, I can only handle one book at a time, so I just read one book at a time. So we get all the clutter cleared out of my brain anyway. So yeah, I really like this, and I'm happy I finally read it. And yeah, it was beautiful. And you guys are not gonna know what I'm talking about, but this is one of my favorite fonts. Just FYI. So I read 4 books in August. Well, 3 books in August. So let's move on to the TBR part of the video. But before we get on to that, All's Well, favorite August read, of course. Just love that cover so much. And now we're moving on to September in a reading journal. And the quote I picked is from The Last Unicorn. And it says, "Outside, the night lay coiled in the street, cobra cold and scaled with stars." And then I tried to draw a unicorn, probably to fill up this empty space on the side. Anyway, I don't remember what September's aesthetic theme is, but looking at the cover page, I think it's mountains. So we have the TBR page, we have like a mountain road, and these are my wrap-up pages that I'll be using. Another cobblestone path going up a mountain, and a lovely grassy scene for my favorite read for September. So I will insert the footage of me playing the Reading Hour TBR game, and also the footage I took of me picking books out of jars to put on the TBR for this month, because I just really wanted a clean slate, because I just always kind of regret when I don't do that. Alright, so like I did last time, I'm going to use these dice. for the most part. And then every third spin, I'm going to use this pretty purple one that I got in a LitDroid crate. And let's go. So last time I was here, so I'm just going to pick up where I left off last time. I still have a free spin that I haven't used, so I'm going to set this over to the side. So I'm going to do 9 spins. So spin number 1. Ooh, 12. Alright, so spin number 1, I got Priority Read, which is a book I said I wanted to read this year, so that's good. Spin number 2. 7. So spin number 2, we landed on Recent Buy. Spin number 3, we're going to use this one. So for spin number 3, we got 9. Okay, so for the third spin, I got Historical Fiction. I'm not 100% sure I'm in the mood for this, but let's go ahead and go with it because I haven't landed on that yet. Spin number 4. Got 8. Alright, so this is novellas and anthologies, which is from this deck here, this green deck. So I'm only going to go with this if this is a novella because I'm not in the mood for an anthology right now, and I'm still reading the one I picked 2 months ago. So we picked a novella, The Ballad of Black Tom. So we're going to go with that. Spin number 5. 8. Alright, classics. That's exciting. Haven't landed on that either. And there are a lot of classics I want to read right now. Alright, spin number 6. Okay, this is a 1. Seriously? That's novellas and anthologies again. I'm going to go ahead and pick and see if this is another novella. If it is, I'll read it. If not, I'll pick something else. That actually is a novella. So we're going to go with that. It's Poison, Charm, or Beauty. They're like in a series. I think I need to read them in order. So we're going to be reading Poison. Forgot to move him. Well, number 7. Ooh, 11. So retelling, which I already have a retelling on this list already, but let's go with another one. Why not? I love retellings. All right, so spin number 8. 10. 10. Oh boy. All right, so 5+ Years is a book that's been on my TBR forever, so that's always a good one to get. Okay. And spin number 9, last spin. Looks like I got a 6. Oh boy, graphic novel. Good. Alright, so it's really late and I'm tired, but I wanted to go ahead and pick out the books for my TBR because I didn't want to wait, and then future Crystal will talk about them in more detail. So for my first spin, I picked a priority read. So I'm going to pick a book out of this jar of books that I said I wanted to read this year, and we're going to keep the jar in frame and pick a book out. I picked out too many. Let's go with this one. No. Okay. This would be a reread. I picked Covenant with the Vampire. You know what? Why not? Why not? Let's just go with it. It's fine. Okay, so for my second spin, I got Recent Buy. I'm having a hard time making a decision, so I'm going to pick a book out of the wild card jar, which is one of the rules of my TBR game. If I can't make a decision, then I'll just pick a book at random. There's a lot of books in here, and they're packed in here pretty good. All right, so I'm going to try to dig a little bit and pick something out of the middle somewhere. Okay, so I picked Elimination. This is a poetry collection, and this is a recent buy. So that works out great because we don't have a poetry book on the TBR yet. So for the third spin, I picked historical fiction. So I'm going to go with this book, The Showgirl by Nicola Harrison. This is set in 1927, so historical fiction. For my fourth spin, I picked a novella and anthology. I picked The Ballad of Black Tom, so we're going to get that off the shelf. So for my fifth spin, I picked classics. So we're going to pick a book out of the classics jar. And I'm excited. There are, a couple books in here I probably am definitely not in the mood to read right now. But let's hope we get a good one. I'm going to go with this one. And this is A Midsummer's Night Dream. Ah, yes. Okay, so this is a manga. And this is a Midsummer's Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. This is the manga classic. It has the entire text in it, so it does count as reading the entire play. Just FYI. And I'm excited about that. I think it's A Midsummer Night's Dream. Why do I have it written like this? It doesn't matter. Okay, so my sixth roll, I landed on novella and anthology again. And I picked Poison. I think it's by Sarah Pinborough. So we're going to pull that off the shelf. So for my seventh spin, I picked a retelling. So we're going to pick a book out of the retelling jar. I have a lot of retellings. And I recently picked up like 2 more. But we're just going to pick one out at random. Because why not? Why play favorites with my books, right? The Lady Rogue. Okay, I got this off the sales table at Books A Million. I'm not 100% sure this is a retelling. I think it's like a Dracula kind of retelling thing. I'm not 100% sure, but I put it in the retelling jar, so it's gotta be in the neighborhood. So for my eighth spin, I got a book that's been on my TBR forever, so we're gonna pick a book out of this jar. A book that's been on the TBR forever. Everything in this jar has been on the TBR for, I think, 4.5 years. So, it says 5+ years, but, we want some longevity. And 4 years is still a long time for something to be sitting on the shelf. So, oh my gosh. Okay, I picked up White Oleander. I started reading this a while ago, like years ago. This is an ebook, so we don't have to put another ebook on the TBR. And I was enjoying it, but I stopped reading it because, I don't know, I don't remember. It was a long time ago. So we're gonna read the White Oleander. So anyway, that's good. And it's good that I have an ebook on the TBR without having to add an extra book. And then the ninth spin, the last spin, I got a graphic novel. So we're going to pick a graphic novel out of my overstuffed graphic novel jar. There are a lot in here. This jar is not big enough. But I'm trying to mix them up and pick one not at the top. So we're going to go with this one. Can't go wrong, right? I just got this Shiver by Junji Ito. All right, so these are all the physical books on September's TBR, and then plus the ebook White Oleander. And I am going to leave this to future Crystal to go into detail about because past Crystal is tired. And yeah. All right, so as stated in the TBR footage, I was too tired to talk about the books. I tried. I got through, I think, 2.5 of them. I was talking about the third book where I was just like, my brain is not working. It's too late. Go to bed. Okay. And I'm going to start with the ebook, of course, so we don't forget about it. And the ebook that I picked was, I'm still reading. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot it. Anyway, I'm still reading one of the ebooks that I picked last month. I think last month I had a You Are Mine and Handsome Death by Sarah W. Bauer. And this is a vampire romance. I'm about 20% into the book and it's not that long. I've read quite a few books and short stories and novellas by Sarah W. Bauer, and I really like her. I really like her writing, but this is literally the worst thing I've ever read by her. Everything else I've read by her has been good, so this is not good. But I'm just like, surely she didn't write a book that didn't have a plot, so I'm still reading that. There's really nothing else to say except vampire thing. This guy is like a mercenary, and he sees this guy one day that he just thinks is so beautiful and starts following him around and wanting to dote on him, and nothing is happening. And I'm expecting it to have a plot. Like, I'm expecting something to happen at some point. That's the only reason why I'm still reading it. Also, it's Sarah Dobie Bauer, and I haven't DNF'd one of her stories or books or anything yet. I'm not going to start now, but I need something to happen besides these two guys macking on each other, because two people macking on each other is not interesting. So, the other ebook I have on the TBR is White Oleander by Janet Fitch. And this is a literary fiction. It's about this girl, and her mom had like a romance with this guy, and it did not go well, and her mom poisoned this guy with white oleander, and he died. And so her mom's in prison, and she like goes to live, I think, with some relatives, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember. I started reading this book years ago, and I wasn't bored. I don't really know what happened. I don't know if I fell into one of those moods where I'm like, I'm not really in the mood to read, or I wanted to read something else, and so I set it aside to read something else, and then I picked it back up. So we're gonna get this book read this time. So the next book on the TBR is Covenant with the Vampire by Gian Calagradas. This is Diaries of the Family Dracul, and so every single chapter is technically somebody's diary entry with the date, and it is set in the 1800s, in the mid 1800s. So I'm pretty sure this book was on a TBR earlier this year and I didn't get to it. So we'll see if I get to it this time. I really want to reread this book so I can finish the series. I read this in high school, I think, and this is an adult horror with vampires, and it's about these children of, I want to say, Vlad the Impaler, are the children of Dracula, but they're not vampires. So they have the vampire blood in their veins. I don't remember why they're not vampires, but they have to commit some kind of mortal sin to become a vampire. And all I remember is what the main guy, the main point of view in the story, what his mortal sin was. It's like the only thing I remember, and it's so dark. But I remember really liking this book. And so I kept this book and the two other books in this series all this time because I'm like, I want to finish the series one day, and I want to read this book one day so I know what's going on in the series, and we have all the vibes together and everything. So we'll see if I get to this book this time. And then next, of course, I'm mulling over Cursed. It's gonna get done one of these days. I don't know if it's gonna get done in September, but it's gonna get done. And then, speaking of fairy tales, next I have Poison by Sarah Pinborough. And this is a Wicked Snow White tale. I pretty much just bought this because of the cover, but it's a novella, and there are 3, and I think I have to read them in order. There's this one, and then Charm and Beauty. I'm not really sure what to expect. I saw a movie on Netflix, not a movie, it was a limited series adaptation of like suspense with some supernatural elements written by this author. I think it's Behind Her Eyes, but I'm not 100% sure. But it was really, really crazy. So I don't know if this is going to be crazy. I don't know what to expect. But I'm excited. I really like fairy tale retellings, and I really like crazy books, so I'm excited to finally be picking this up. And then next we have another novella, which is The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Laval, and this is a Barnes & Noble mystery book. I don't remember everything that was written on the wrapping, but it ended by saying supernatural retribution, and so I thought it sounded really interesting. So it's about this guy, and I think he's like a delivery guy. I'm not 100% sure, but he delivers this occult book to this woman, and it like leads him down this path of like dark magic and whatnot. And it sounds interesting, so I'm looking forward to this. So next we have a poetry book, and it is Elimination by Tyler Not Gretson. And I just thought this was interesting. Like, I really like when people play with like format and like pictures and stuff. And so we have some pages like this, and then we have some pages that look like they're like scanned, handwritten or typed pages. And that's just really interesting. So the front says that this is poetry to light up the darkness. So maybe it's going to be uplifting. I don't really know what to expect. I pretty much buy poetry books because I like the cover. So, and next we have 2 graphic novels. So the first one we have is a Midsummer. I can't say this title ever. Okay, we have A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. And we have the full original text. So this counts as reading the play, although I'm pretty sure we don't have stage directions. Oh my gosh. So, look at this art. So lovely. So lovely. If you don't know what a Midsummer Night's Dream is about, it is about, there are these four people. And they run across the path of some fairies one day, and the fairies are bored and decide to have some fun. And so this is a comedy play. I feel like all of Shakespeare's comedies have kind of like this dark undertone if you like look underneath the surface. And so he's like using comedy as like a way to like get like this deeper message through. I always found the ending of A Midsummer to be kind of, it's kind of disturbing. So I've been wanting to read this for a while. So I'm excited. And the other manga I have is Shiver by Junji Ito. And this is a collection of short stories. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have read at least one of these already, because I've read Tomi, and he definitely has a short story from Tomi that's Tomi. But I wanted to go ahead and get this because why not get everything? So, by Junji Ito. Look at this cover. I hate that. But anyway. So yes, this is horror. And I love Junji Ito's art style. So I'm really looking forward to this. And then the next book on the TBR is a YA historical, I think fantasy. It sounds like fantasy. And it's The Lady Rogue by Jen Bennett. This little bit back here says, the ring of Vlad the Impaler was itself a legend, but the man who wore it was even more so. So I think it has to do with like this girl's father. It's like, I want to say he's like a treasure hunter or something. And so he goes off on this journey and he leaves her behind, but she like runs into these other people, and they are going on this journey looking for this ring, and they're trying to keep this ring out of the hands of like some other people. And so she goes on this journey with them, and it sounds like fun. Like maybe there are some pirates in it or something. And we all know I like vampires over here. I don't know if there are going to be vampires in the book, but I just kind of felt like if you mention Vlad the Impaler and Dracula and Vlad Dracula, son of the dragon, blah, 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 if you're going to bring it up that much, hopefully there are some vampires in here. Hopefully they're creepy vampires. I mean, I like the cool, mysterious vampires as well, but I also really like creepy vampires, and I haven't gotten that in a while. And the last book on September's TBR is This Showgirl by Nicola Harrison. And this is set in the 1920s about this woman who moves to New York to be a showgirl. And she meets this guy and they get engaged. And then at first the guy, he just loves how independent and wild she is. But then after they get engaged, I feel like I'm getting the vibe that he wants her to settle down and be a housewife. And so she's having to choose between, life on the stage and her dream, or life with this guy that she's in love with. So hopefully I'll feel the romance and I'll feel this pull of going back and forth between being a showgirl and marrying the love of her life. Anyway, I thought this sounded interesting. I think this is I mean, obviously this is historical fiction. I do like historical fiction. So I thought it sounded interesting. So that is all for this video. Let me know if you've read any of these books, if you've heard of any of these books. Also, we're going to be unboxing this soon. That is August's Illuminate, and it has a dark academia theme. Alcrate's dark academia box is on its way. I'm trying to wait until that one gets in so that I can unbox them together. And Fairy Loot's box is also due, so we might have a triple unboxing video next week. I will see you guys then, and I hope your September is getting off to a really good start. I will see you later. Bye.